In the last video, I showed you how I did the stenciling design on this cake, and in this video, I'm going to be applying some beautiful flowers to finish off this wedding cake. So because I'm using roses today, the stems were really thick, and I wasn't able to get my straws over the stem. So what I did was just chopped off the entire stem all the way down to the flower, and then stuck a toothpick in the end. And when I use that method, I always add a little extra barrier of buttercream so that the stem itself is not sticking into the cake. But when the stem is really small and thin and fragile, I like to use a toothpick, and then I use floral tape, and I tape the toothpick to the stem, and then because I don't want the floral tape to go into the cake, I'll slide a straw over top of the floral tape and stem. But you just have to make sure to add enough floral tape so that the straw goes on snug, otherwise your flower could fall out. And then grab some tweezers and stick the flower where you want it. That's pretty much all there is to applying flowers to a cake, or that's at least how I do it. I know there's a lot of people who do things differently, but that's what I do. And then to get the cake pushed in, the flower, to get the flower pushed in all the way, I like to use tweezers because sometimes your hands can't get in there into tiny little spaces, and I don't want to ruin my buttercream, so I use tweezers for that. For greenery, I do the exact same thing. I apply a toothpick to the stem to strengthen it, and then some floral tape and a straw. Sometimes if it's going to be poking out really far and the floral tape is not going to actually touch the cake, I'll skip the straw. It really just depends. I personally like to have a minimum of about 4 or 5 different sizes of flowers and colors in the color range the customer requested. I think it's just more pleasing to the eye to have some variation. Obviously, you could just stick with one size of flower and just stick it into the cake and it would still look really pretty, but the style of flowers that I do on a cake usually always have a lot of variation. And I like to have at least 1 to maybe even 3 different types of greenery. All right, so now let's move on to the top of the cake. The very first thing I do is just gently place the flower on top of the cake so I can get some idea of how I want it to look before I start poking holes. I apply a blob of buttercream, and then I do the chop off the stem and stick in a toothpick method. It just makes it easier, and it makes less holes in the top of your cake. And of course, I lost the rest of the footage for this, so I'm just going to add a couple of photos at the very end so you can see the finished cake. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I love and appreciate you all so much, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Okay, bye now.